Why should a magazine make videos?
Digital growth, brand awareness, behind the paywall offer, advertisers going to brands who are making video. The cost.
The big question.
What's video for?
Okay, who is this pod for, Si?
So it's for magazine pros, basically. It's the kind of people who have maybe already been making video and it hasn't gone too well. You know, there are some examples of people who've invested quite heavily in video, but they're still only getting a few hundred views on YouTube. Their Facebook videos aren't getting watched. They're not doing so well on LinkedIn, but they've made that investment. And this is for those people. It's to sort of, this is how maybe you should think about it and approach it. And also it's for the people who know they need to make video because they have to compete in the digital landscape, but haven't quite made that step yet because of the money, because of the cost, and also because they don't quite know where to start. Obviously, I've got a self-interest in it, but we're looking at providing information for people who both want to in-house their content, i.e. set up their own production, and also people who want to commission content. So, yeah, it's for both of those people. Both of those sets of people anyway.
Okay, well, so everybody can get a clearer view, basically, of how exactly video works. We're going to be very transparent about quite a lot of things, aren't we? So do you want to tell everyone exactly why I'm here?
It's because I can't present. I literally can't do it. I tried and I just can't do it. I don't have what it takes to present. I think one of the things that people who are making video for magazines need to really think about is if they're going to have a face for that magazine, it's got to be someone who can do it, and they may have that person in-house, and they should certainly offer up opportunities. But also, if they haven't got that person, if your editor can't do it, then I think maybe people might need to hire in or get a mate to do it, so it's all good.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking me to do it. You can decide for yourselves whether or not I'm any good at it. What's the obvious reason for people to make video?
So it's digital growth. People in magazines know already that it's a massively competitive digital market, and posts with video, I mean, Forbes did a survey and said posts with video get 1,200% more engagement and shares than posts with just picture and text. And that's, you know, you can pay your money and take your choice with surveys. 1,200% is a big number and it's a good one to roll out in this kind of chat. But there's all sorts of research that shows that video posts on social will get more engagement and therefore they will grow your digital numbers. A lot of magazines put their digital numbers, their social followings on their rate card. So there's a value to them, but they quite often don't put a number next to it. You know, they'll say, oh, you can have a social post as well as a print ad and a digital ad on our website, but they don't put a number on it. And I think maybe quite a lot of magazines will probably want to look at what their social following is worth and also work out, is it worth investing in video? I mean, I would say that I think it is because of that potential growth. But yeah, essentially, the biggest and most obvious reason is digital growth.
So let's look at the kind of 8 other reasons to make video, and obviously because you need all the help you can get, I'm going to give you basically one word for each of the 8-ish other reasons. So let's start with reputation.
One of the things that magazines have got to look at is, can I afford not to do video? You know, some magazines are serious old school journals where their value is in the detail in their articles, and they might not need to, although I still think they should think about it. But most magazines will need to do video because it needs to be part of their offer. And if they don't do it, they look old-fashioned and they risk getting left behind.
What about paywalls?
So one of the things you can do, a lot of magazines put information behind paywalls. And one of the ways you can add value to what's behind a paywall is with video. You know, people engage with video, people watch it. It's a great way to get information across. It's a great way to simplify information. And therefore you can add value to your behind the paywall offer with video.
Okay, how about sponsorship?
Basically, if you're a big enough title already, you can go to sponsors and advertisers and say, we're going to make video. Do you want to be a part of that journey? And therefore you can raise money for it. Whether or not you can actually get it to pay for itself in the first instance, I think that's a balance, and it depends what kind of magazine you are and how big your audience is. But video can absolutely be sponsored, raise money for you. It's absolutely a potential revenue stream.
Expose.
Okay, so just to lay all my cards on the table, I've worked in TV and digital for a long time, but I started on magazines and newspapers, and 1 or 2 of the magazines that I worked on now run, you know, shows. I worked for Professional Electrician magazine, and they run an electrician's show. You know, I still can't wire a plug, but
You do surprise me.
Yeah, thanks. But they run an exhibition, and therefore, if you want to promote that exhibition, then video is a great way to do it. I think with that kind of content, you've got to be slightly careful, and you've got to be very aware so that people really engage with the content. People don't like a hard sell. So if you go to people who've had a good time at that show and got something out of it, then talk to them. But I would be slightly careful about that, because I think with that balance, I think if you're in housing especially, you just need to be careful about how hard you sell, because it's very easy when you invest a lot of money in video to go, right, we've got to make this pay, we've got to sell. And that is a great way to make video fail.
Advertisers, which is kind of similar, I suppose, to sponsorship in a way.
If you're a publisher or an editor, you sat there going, I run a magazine, and my advertisers are starting to thin out because they're going to brands who are making video. Now, it's not just about video, it's about podcasts and all kinds of wider digital offers. But video is perhaps the most difficult thing to do, but it's also one of the most attractive things for advertisers. So, and you might also find that those advertisers, you know, they don't just go to the people you think are your rivals. One of the things I think magazines need to be aware of, and a lot are, but some aren't, is that your competition for advertisers isn't necessarily the other titles in your niche, it's YouTubers. You know, if you look, I looked quite a lot of the electrical market just because I used to work for that magazine, and there's a couple of electricians on YouTube are nailing it. They're getting 100,000 views on their video, they're starting to get sponsorship, and they're doing really well. And that will inevitably pull marketing spend away from old school media brands that aren't offering the same thing. So I think serving advertisers is a really good reason to make video.
Moves me on to brand.
It's an old school reason, isn't it? Brand awareness. You know, if you want your brand to be wider known, to be known with a particular audience, again, because of that engagement with video, that's how you do it. That one's fairly simple.
And you mentioned at the beginning rivals, and I suppose everything kind of links back to what your rivals are doing.
As with advertisers potentially pulling away your sponsors and your advertisers, your rivals will be doing the same. If you're sat there watching a rival kill it with video, you know, I did a bit of consultancy work for a brand I actually genuinely can't talk about. I think I signed the only NDA of my life. And they didn't really realise that their biggest rival was a new startup brand that was only making video. They were an old school, sort of not print, but digital offering, so it was all articles. And they didn't realise how much they were getting killed by a rival that was just making video. And it had a really sort of inexpensive and decent setup. So yeah, you have to be aware of who your rivals are and watch what they're doing.
So what is the big question that this all leads to then?
So the big question, what's video for? Why do we want to make video? I think magazine pros know exactly what they're doing when it comes to content. And that's a question they always ask themselves about articles. Why am I doing this? It's to engage an audience. It's because my audience have shown previously they're really interested in this area. And you've really got to nail that down with video because it's a significant investment. You know, it's not your editorial assistant going out and writing an article or doing an interview, which costs you 50 or 100 quid plus whatever their salary is. Generally, a magazine's not a fortune. Because you've got that big investment as opposed to normal written work, you've got to be really clear about what each video is for. Who's the audience I'm going after? Where are they? What platform will I go on? All of those things you have to make count in your commissioning. Your commissioning is super important in video, more important than it is in your articles. And I say that only because it's more expensive.
See, he's not that bad at presenting, is he? When he's passionate about it, you can certainly tell. So where do people find out more?
So crowdfindervideo.com, and there's a blog on there that's got a deeper dive on each of these videos and podcasts that we're making that goes into some of the stuff that is, it's a bit too detailed for this kind of thing, but I think people could do with knowing it if they're considering video for their title.